Hello everyone, thank you so much for dropping by today. It's Mari. I am going to be creating a card for you today using a bunch of Tim Holtz products, including this gorgeous embossing folder called Numbered. It is so cool. I love it so much. It just gives the most amazing texture to a project. It is a 3D embossing folder, and I'm going to use some distress inks on this piece of really nicely textured paper because of that embossing folder. So I ran the embossing folder through my Gemini Junior with some craft paper, and I'm going to use a combination of vintage photo and walnut stain distress ink and my ink blending tool. I'm starting off here. I think this is vintage photo that I'm starting off with, and then I finish up with a little bit of walnut stain, the darker color around the outside edge. So I'm just going over all of the raised areas with my ink. I do get a little bit of ink on the non-raised areas as well, but that's all good. I'm just trying to create a really distressed impression with the paper. So like I said, I'm just adding that ink over mostly the raised areas, and that's going to just give my paper some more detail, make it look a little bit more grungy, really draw attention to the numbers that are on the embossed paper. The embossing folders, especially the 3D ones, I really, really love. The regular ones are awesome too, but the really cool thing about the 3D ones is you just get an even more raised impression. It's just that little bit more dramatic. And I love the numbers specifically. I just think that they're really versatile. You can use them on just about any type of project. And I love the impression that this particular embossing folder gives. So I have linked up to this embossing folder and all of the other products I'm using today in the description box below. So if you're looking for any of these things, you can go ahead and check out those links, and hopefully you'll be able to find them if you're looking for them, because I know that this last release from Tim Holtz and Sizzix was just like amazing and super, super popular. So now I'm going in with the walnut stain as promised. I'm just going to give a little bit of that around the edges just to kind of, really define the edge of the paper. And this really kind of helps draw your eye into the details that are inside of that border or that edge. So I'm just defining that a little bit more with that walnut stain. I love using my distress inks for these processes. They're just gorgeous to work with. Blend really nicely onto this craft paper. This is actually some Gina K craft, which is a really nice paper to work with. All of Gina's cardstocks are fantastic. They just have a really nice weight, and they just are really, really super great to create any sort of paper crafting, card making, any type of project that you might be working on. So I love them. The Gina K paper is also really great for a card base. And so definitely check those out if you haven't. They are really awesome papers. So I'm just finishing up with this here. You can just see I'm going to finish up this last edge with that walnut stain. I love that dark impression that this leaves. You can see that it just makes it look just that little tiny bit more dramatic. I will go over the inside areas a little bit as well with the walnut stain, just to add that little bit more of a darker impression. Not too much, just a little bit here and there to finish that up. Now I've also die cut out this folder. This is so cool. This comes from I'm trying to remember, I think this is from the Specimen set. Yes, it's from the Specimen die set. And you can just see also I've used another embossing folder on that folder that I die cut out from Specimen. This one is called Industrious. It's so cool. It leaves a really kind of textured impression, but it also leaves the rivets on there as well. That looks so cool. So again, I die cut out the folder from the Specimen die set, and then I ran the front part of that folder through my die cutting machine with the embossing folder there, the Industrious folder. Now I'm just going to go over that again with some more ink, and this ink this time is pumice stone. I'm just double checking on my desk here. So a little bit of pumice stone. It's not a super dark gray, but it's just dark enough that it's going to add some color to this gray cardstock. I'm trying to remember what gray cardstock this is that I used. I will make sure that I link up to it in the description box so you can check it out. It's just a really nice, not a super dark, just sort of like a mid-tone gray. And it's going to pick up this pumice stone really nicely. So I'm just going over it really lightly with that ink, and it's just going to really define some of those different bumps and details. Now, this is some foundry wax. If you have not discovered the foundry wax from Ranger yet, it's amazing. I'm starting off here with some sterling on this piece here, and you shake the container really well, and then you just squeeze a little bit out onto your surface. I'm working on a Crafter's Companion glass mat. I'll link to the glass mat too if you're interested, but I'm just taking that foundry wax and I'm adding it to mostly to the rivets, but just to a few other little spots here and there on the folder. I don't know if you can see it here if I've already done it, but I added some stitching with my sewing machine onto the folder as well. So there's a left line of stitching, vertical stitching on the left side of that folder, or there will be after I do it. I can't remember and I can't really see it as I'm doing the voiceover, but it just adds that little bit of texture to the project. And you can just see I'm just adding it to the edges of the folder as well. I'll just clean that up, and then I'll grab my Heat It tool from Ranger and I'll just heat that foundry wax. And what happens when you heat it is it puffs up and it kind of becomes sort of like 3D. So it's a really cool effect. And I love it. I love the foundry waxes. You can get them in a bunch of different colors. This one, like I said, is sterling. And I'm also going to be using the statue color as well on the first embossed piece with a numbered embossing folder. I'll show you that here in a minute, but I'm just going to heat this with my Heat It tool. You can see me heating that there. And what it's going to do is get super shiny and puffy. And I love the effect that the foundry wax gives a project. I just think it's very cool. It's a really fun detail that's really, really simple to create. So there you can see that. Love that so much. So now the neat thing about these specimen folders is you can use them for lots of different things, right? Lots of different types of projects. That specimen die set's probably my favorite part of that last Sizzix release. Really cool. So now I've put a little bit of that statue foundry wax again on my desk, and you'll just see me with my fingertip going in and just adding it here and there. Lots of it on the edges of this piece because I am going to use this piece as a base for the details on my card front. So you're not going to see some of it. Same as the sterling on the folder. You won't see all of it, but I just wanted it to be sort of like poking out here and there from the rest of the details that I add to my mixed media card project. So I'm just going to finish up with a little more foundry wax. You don't need very much of this stuff. A little bit goes a long way, and those little bottles of medium should last you quite a while unless you're using them on almost every project, which I have to say, this stuff is really addicting. It is very cool. But the little bottle does go a long way. It lasts quite a while. Okay, so I'm just going to finish that up. I'll clean those last remnants of that wax off of my desk, and I'll heat this up, and it will create the same impression that sterling did on the folder, which just is super, super cool. I don't know what's in this stuff, but whatever the chemistry is, it's very neat how it reacts with heat. And it puffs up and gets super shiny, like I said, and you'll see the gold. And I love having gold and silver on one project. A lot of people might say that's a real faux pas in crafting, but I would say no, it's not. You definitely can mix silver and gold, especially with a mixed media project. I feel like anything goes, and anything that sort of like adds more texture and shine and interest and dimension to your project, well, I say go for it. So I'm just using my heat tool again to heat that up and make it shiny and puffy. I love it so much. So it's very cool. If you have any questions about any of these products I'm using today, make sure that you leave me a comment and let me know if you have any questions or things that you're wondering about. Just make sure that you leave a comment, and I will take a look and help you out with that if I can. So that is all heated and finished and ready to go for the next step. I'm going to just hold that up to the camera and the light so that you can see how pretty that looks. Super awesome. I love that so much. Now, this is just a little piece of ephemera from Ideology. Tim's always coming out with these new little bits in from Ideology, the wallpapers and all those things. And I love those. I always get those because you can use them in so many different ways. So I tore one of those large vertical pieces and just tore it in half. I'm going to use that as a little layering piece here on my project. I'm going to again just go in with the pumice stone and add a little bit of inking to the edges here just to make it look just that little bit more distressed and interesting looking. I will rough up the edges just slightly for this piece, and I'll also add a little bit of water splatter to this. I always think that looks fun and cool just because, again, it just kind of creates that little bit of extra detail. And because the distress inks are water reactive, you can definitely do that. And it's always just a little bit of extra fun to play around with that as well. So just going to finish adding the pumice stone to this piece, and then you'll see me just add a little bit of water drops with my distress sprayer. So I think I'm going to do that here. Just going to flick a little bit of water on with the straw from the bottle. And then I'll just let that sit there for a few seconds and take my paper towel and dab up the excess water. And it just gives this really fun distress water look to it. I'm not sure if I'm going to hold that up for you to see, but hopefully you can see it there. And I will be using that as a layer. Now I have a 5x7 card base that I'm going to be using for my project. It's white, and I love the contrast of that stark white with the rest of the project. I am going to add a couple of other little pieces of white for detail, just so that it doesn't look weird to have that white base with no other white on there. So I'm going to add this numbered embossed piece onto my project with my tape runner here. And now I'm just going to start adding some more details. Now I did die cut out some little floral bits from some Ranger or Tim Holtz cardstock. And the little bits that I cut out are from the Funky Florals #3 die set. I'm going to show you that here, I think, eventually. But first I'm just going to get this little specimen folder on here. Gosh, I love these little folders. They're so cool. I can definitely use these in mini albums, in scrapbooking, in all different types of ways, different sorts of projects. That specimen die set's a must-have in anyone's stash that likes to do a lot of different types of papercraft projects. So again, here's some more of the Tim Holtz ephemera bits from a previous release. And I will try to remember to link up to all of these different little papers and details that I'm using here. But this one I love because it kind of looks like lockers. And I thought that was cool. And it also brings a little bit of the white back in. And I know I'm going to cover up some of that folder and some of the rivets and the foundry wax, but that's okay. It's fine. There will still be some that's showing, and that's all that matters to me. So I love the paper dolls. These are from the mini paper dolls. I love these ladies. I thought they just looked so cool, and so I wanted to add them to the front for a little more detail. Definitely gives the project more of a vintage look, which is fun, and I love that. So I've added some foam adhesive to pop them up so that my layers aren't all flat. It does add some dimension to the card, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. A lot of my cards I do hand deliver. So, and you know what? A lot of my cards my kids grab for their card stash as well, so that when they have an occasion, and lots of them are hand delivered. So this is a Funky Florals #3 die set. Any of the Funky Florals from Tim and from Sizzix are amazing. They're just perfect for that little bit of foliage and detail on your project. So versatile. You can use them in so many different ways. And I've added those, or I've die cut this piece here just from some of Tim's cardstock. This almost kind of gives it a little bit of a holiday feel. It almost kind of looks like a little bit of a holiday flower. It's not what I was going for, but I definitely could use this as a holiday card if I wanted to. This little white piece was die cut from, and I'm going to show you here this set. And this is I think this is the Postal set. And I love that it's just got a little bit of detail on the edges of the circle. I'm going to add that to the center of the flower as a base for that little blue center. And again, that just brings in a little bit more of the white, which I think is really great. And I also die cut out some of the funky florals. Oh, I'm going to add another little piece here. I think that's from Specimen. And I did die cut some of the funky florals as well from some of Tim's gold metallic cardstock as well, just to add a little bit more sparkle and shine to that area. I could have added some silver as well, but I didn't. I just added gold. I'll just be using a little bit of liquid adhesive here and there on these little bits that I'm adding in. I love the addition of the green, the red, that really pretty blue, and they all coordinate so nicely with the other colors. They're all really muted tones, which I love, and it also contributes to just kind of like that vintage look that I have going on here with this project. Adding a little bit more of the liquid adhesive to these tiny little, they're almost like little ferns, and those are cut from gold metallic. Really pretty little details. Definitely great to have some reverse tweezers for this process as well to help you handle these tiny little pieces. Some people don't like to fiddle with the tiny little die cut pieces, but I have to say these little pieces are just everything for perfect details for a project. I love the intricacy of them and how they just really contribute to the overall look of the project. So I'm going to add a little bit more liquid adhesive there and get those leaves added in. And so I'm just loving the little, the part of the process where you're just kind of fussing with the little details that I think contribute to the overall impact of the project. Now there's a part of that, the funky florals, that creates these little berries almost, and I love those, so I used those in gold as well on the top. Now this is the label stickers, the Thoughts label stickers. There's one there that says Inspire, and it just fits perfectly on the tab of the Specimen folder, so I'm going to add that on there, and I love that. And this is just a card that could be used for almost any occasion. My final part for this project is going to be to add some white splatter, which I love to do on just about any type of project. I love how it just finishes it off. It creates sort of like an overall effect on the whole thing. And yeah, white splatter is just my jam. I love it. I hope you enjoyed this today. I had so much fun creating this project for you. I love to just be in my space and play with my stash. Not as a design team project, not as for anything other than just for me, just to play with the product. And I just had so much fun with this today, so I hope you did too. Again, I've linked up to all of the products in the description box below in the show more section. If you just click that in the description box, you can see those links. Have an amazing day, friends. I'll see you soon. Take care, be safe, be well, and I'll see you another time. Bye-bye.